Good morning, and welcome back to my Facebook live stream. My name is Cheng. I'm a professional photographer, filmmaker, and an Olympus ambassador. So if you're new to this live stream, I'm running this between Monday to Friday, 11 to 11:30 a.m. GMT London time. So this live stream is all about, yeah, of course, you heard that right, photography, filmmaking, of course, Micro Four Third gears, in especially Olympus. So yeah, welcome back, and oh, good morning, Barana. Catch you first. Good afternoon. Welcome. So because this is a live thing and also public, so that means everybody in this entire world can see this live stream. Today, I actually haven't set up any lighting because it's so bright outside. It's sunny. It's just gorgeous day, and I actually want to go out and have a barbecue right away. But of course, I have work to do. I have actually a lot of work to do for which is, you know, in a good way. So this is something I want to update you guys also. But if you're new here, this we usually have a format to follow. So let me just give you the topic, you know, kind of structure that we follow on every single live stream. So where is it gone now? Oh, for some reason it's not updating. Oh, well, what the heck is going on? There you go. Right, for some reason, text, like I said, it's live, so nothing's rehearsed and anything can happen. Sounds good. That's perfect. So this is the structure I usually follow. So I'll give a general update about, you know, myself, my family, the channel, the YouTube channel I'm talking about, and also this particular live stream that I'm running on Facebook. Then we will talk about the topic of the day. You might actually already guess what it is because I already put it on as a post yesterday. So you kind of expect what I'm going to talk about. And also will be Q&A. Any question you may have in photography or filmmaking or Olympus gears, you are very welcome to ask me anything, anytime. There's not really a strict structure, so I'm not going to answer all the questions at the end of the stream. I'm actually going to see as and when the comment pops up and populates on my comment box, I will answer accordingly. So this is a very straightforward thing. First of all, let me give you some update. And well, like I mentioned, this the Facebook Live is public, so I would like to use the opportunity to also update my friends and family around the globe that I'm okay, because they all live in different countries, so there will be time zone differences here. We're morning in London, but it's super early in the States, for instance. So you know, so we have time to catch up when they eventually get up. So this is, yeah, we're okay. You know, my family and I are doing very well, and you can see that we've done something with the kids, and even though they still haven't got school, apparently in the UK, the school or certain years of the school will start going back to, you know, the school in 1st of June, which is a couple of weeks time, but it's still debatable at the moment whether they will go back eventually. I'm not entirely sure for this particular academic year. If not, that means they will have to wait until September, you know, the new term. Yeah, it's going to be tough for all the parents, especially, you know, they will have to stay home and look after them. There's no childcare anywhere because all the clubs and everything now is closed because of the lockdown. They're not really advised to reopen because of the social distancing and things like that. So yeah, it's going to be a wee bit weird. Good morning, Trevor. Good morning. Good day, everybody. That's nice. So this is the update I want to give you guys. And of course, I am going to have a YouTube Photography 101 live this afternoon at 3 p.m. GMT London time. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you will be there. And yeah, it's going to be another interesting talk this week. It's all about Olympus features in the camera. Last week we talked about the development in terms of camera gears, so this week is all about software. So it's going to be very interesting, and just want to see what you guys have come up with. So that's cool. If you want to join me, I'm going to have another talk later this afternoon. Perfect. So let's get on with today's topic. There you go. It is not the camera's fault. Right. Why I want to talk about this, because I personally, you know, when I first started photography, I was one of those people, you know, I always thought the better the camera would get me a better shot. To a certain extent, that may be true, but I wasn't a professional. I wasn't using the camera to make money. It was just simply my hobby. So you really have to kind of understand where you're coming from or what you want your camera to do. Eventually, a very talented and capable photographer can use any photographic capturing machines to do the job. And for people, you know, for instance, I have seen a lot of like really big photo competitions, and I see the nominated photos or even winning photos were capturing from some very primitive cameras. It could be disposable film cameras or iPhone, smartphone. It's not really coming from big massive cameras or really sophisticated medium format like big large format film cameras. Of course they have them, but then it's not just about that. It's ultimately about your visions, how you convey the message over to the judges and the audience and the viewers. So that's the most important thing. Good morning, Sam. All right, I'm going to answer you that later. So yeah, it's not really the common fault if you don't capture the photo that you want. So I'm going to just put that on the side because I want to show you some pictures in a minute. Just talking back to my experience, you can share your experience as I go along, because I'm pretty sure a lot of you may have experienced one way or the other what I'm just about to say. For instance, when you first started out, I mean, especially I think it's a guy thing, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe just me. I'm one of those guys who don't really like to read menu. So when I first got into photography, I've saved enough money to buy my first SLR film cameras, and I really never really bothered reading about anything in photography. I just thought it's cool, this camera will get me better photos. But you know what? My first 10 rolls of films were utter rubbish. Like nothing was really focused. They were all under or overexposed. I never got anything right, and then the composition was ugly. It was horrible. Yes, you need to read something. If you don't know about photography, not just about the camera menu, but if you don't understand photography from the basics, like compositions, leading lines, exposure triangle, all this relationship between the shutter speed, aperture, and film speed, or ISO in these days, and it's going to be really difficult for you to capture something decent. I know in today's world, automation is almost so good that to an extent that it can almost replace your human brain, but ultimately you still need your eyes and your brain to compose the photos and make it right. So just give you a couple of quick photos here, and just got popped up here. So like when I first started photography, man, I never really did anything just like these. Things were never straight. They were horizontal. It's always tilted a little bit, and these things accumulate over time. When you're starting to read about the importance of leading line, the importance of compositions, lighting, contrast, and all the other things, it's going to be, you can't really blame that you can't achieve that shot because of the camera. I used to do that, and that's why I keep upgrading things. At the beginning of my career, I would say, it wasn't really a career, I wasn't really a professional yet, but at the beginning of my amateur days, I always blamed something. The lens wasn't sharp enough, the shutter, the autofocus wasn't fast enough, the camera just wasn't good enough, and so I keep upgrading for that reason. But as a matter of fact, why now? I shoot this for my living. I make money from photography. When I look back in my early days, and I thought, how silly I was. I was wasting a lot of time and money, buying new gears that didn't really serve the purpose that I wanted to serve. I keep upgrading for the reasons that it didn't really exist, and it's really kind of interesting. Mark, good morning, and he wanted to say something here. Let me just put up here. Don't read the menus, don't work out rules in advance, adapt, improvise, overcome. Improvisation is definitely, of course, but that improvisation comes with experience. If you are experienced enough, you can improvise. But I'm talking really about things like when you started, you had absolutely no ideas about photography. Improvisation doesn't really come into it because you really don't understand or know what these buttons and dials are for. And in that case, you're screwed basically, and even though you may have a £3,000 worth of camera, you would not be able to exploit the full potential of it. Similarly, these days, if you are handling a really sophisticated cameras like the M1X, for instance, all the AI's subject tracking and all the focus stacking in the camera, the live bulbs, things that is inbuilt in there, pro capture. If you don't really understand all those stuff, what you can achieve, what you can use, in what circumstance, for instance, and pretty much they are wasted. And yeah, you also have to understand the limit of each of those features as well. You know, if you think that for one good example that I think I mentioned it last week in one of my streams is that okay, all the Olympus cameras now have really good IBIS, which is the in-body image stabilization, and the lenses, like the 40 to not the 40, 12 to 100 and the 40 no sorry, 12 to 100 and the 300 millimeters pro lenses. They both have lens IS, so when you mount it on the Olympus spotter, you can use sync IS, which equivalent to one stop higher than the official quoted image stabilization in the body. So if you mount it on the EM1X, for instance, you can have up to 7.5 stop, or the EM1 Mark III, which is the same thing. So I saw these photograph on some of the Facebook groups, and people were complaining about oh, I can't get the shot sharp, you know, it's still blur, you know, still have movement. But you really don't quite understand it in that case. If you have a long telephoto lens, you still need a certain amount of shutter speed. You have to understand the limit, where the limit is. Even though you have an IBIS, doesn't mean that you can shoot with, you know, 20 seconds with a long tele. I know Trevor actually did a really long handheld IBIS shot, but that using a wide angle, and it's a very unusual circumstance. You can't really use you know, let's say a 300 millimeter lens and shoot with a 20-second handheld shot. It doesn't work like that. You still have to, you know, basically oblige to that physical rules about it. The shutter speed, you need the faster shutter speed to capture a sharper shot to avoid either camera shakes or movement shakes, movement from the subject. You do still need that. The IBIS only helps you to get a little bit better in terms of shutter speed. If you just happen to be about a little bit too slower shutter speed than normally you would need on the bright daylight, you still help you that. So it's helping. It doesn't mean that illuminate completely of all the shakiness and camera movement if you mount it on the lens, so mount it on the camera. So you have to really understand the limits of the IBIS itself. Don't trust or don't listen to people. Oh, I can shoot with 20 seconds because doesn't mean that you can shoot 20 seconds with a 300 millimeter lens. It doesn't work like that. But people don't understand that, and they will complain about, oh, the camera just not good enough, or the lens is not good enough, or the IBIS is not enough. This isn't the case at all. So, you know, you just have to be mindful about, you know, how much you actually understand the photography. And similarly, you know, when I first started with photography, I never really understand about the picture's a bit big. Let me just shrink it down a little bit. So I never really understand lights and shadow, for instance, because I never really exposed to any black and white stuff. It's all color back in when I first started photography. So like I never appreciated leading line and also the structure, the texture within the composition itself. So these things wouldn't come straight to it until you're starting to study more about photography and starting to appreciate other people's work, and you're trying to practice yourself. And also, this is something that not the camera can give you. You know, like you may also hear people talking about, oh, this lens is very contrasty. This one will give you really high resolution, you know, like resolving power, which I use these terms a lot for my lens reviews on my YouTube. But as a matter of fact, they don't give you picture like this. They don't give you the actual contrast. The contrast comes from the light. And when I say contrast, micro contrast, resolving power in lenses is in technical terms. You know, they can have that power to resolve it. But if the light is not there, and you simply won't get the same sharpness or perceived sharpness you can see from the final image. So this is, good morning, Jason. This is something you really have to understand. And so again, it's not about your equipment, not about your camera or your lens. It is about you as a photographer. I'm trying to get you another shot here just to show you like something like this, for instance, and another shot about, you know, focusing, for instance. In this particular case, I was using a disable the face detection. I use actual manual focus for this particular shot because once you know, if you are so used to face detect and you're always thinking about, oh, these days, you know, my camera is, you know, it has a fantastic job of tracking all the faces and stuff. Yes, to a certain extent, but the camera is still a computer. It still can be fooled by reflection, by other patterns that may resemble as a face. It happens a lot in the Olympus camera and other cameras that I've seen. Sometimes when you go and basically wave the camera around a blank scene with no people, you still see some boxes highlighting faces. And so you just have to understand they are still computer, they cannot think for you. So in this particular case, because of the reflection is backlit, it's going to be really difficult to shoot this. So I turn it into manual focus and I physically choose her subject and also making sure her eyes in focus, even though it's actually a reflection of her. So it's very, very once again, to understand that the equipment is not 100% reliable. It's still you as a photographer to take control of every single step. Okay, just say hi to someone. And where's everybody's from? Of course, Mark, you're from Wales and I'm from London. Welcome to London. Burana is from Thailand, and Trevor, actually I forgot where you're from now, Trevor. Which part of the country are you from? Sam, and let's answer your question quickly. And EM1 Mark III 12 to 100, of course, is a very good combo. Depends what sort of thing you do. 12 to 100 is a very kind of cool all-in-one lens that you can do for almost anything. But 12 to 100 is actually not as slim or small and light as a micro four third lens, only because it's, first of all, it's a pro lens, so it has full metal construction. Straight away it's heavier, and second is the constant f4 aperture. It's not 2.8, but f4 is enough for the 100mm lens, and then so it's a relatively big zoom range. Is 24 to 200 equivalent in a pro body. So it's relatively big. It's just slightly smaller than the 40 to 150 f2.8 Pro. But it's a really good lens because it also has IS in the lens. So once you combine with the EM1 Mark III, you will have up to 7.5 stops of image stabilization for both video and photos. But like I mentioned earlier, if you remember, if you're still listening, and I would say that you just have to bear in mind about the limits of the IBIS itself. At 12mm, you can shoot a couple of seconds easy without a problem. But when you zoom all the way into 100, don't expect the same stabilization. You can't capture 2-second shot with 100mm. You have to bump up the shutter speed dramatically. Let's say you probably have to have 150 or 160, maybe even 180 for a 100mm focal length once you zoom all the way in to get a sharper shot. So that is pretty awesome, right? Okay, let's see. Burana and also mentioned something here. I remember during my Canon AE1 using flash and the speed, yeah, it's 160. All picture gone down before and after. Yes, that's me. You know what about flashes? And yes, I had some really horrible experience. I can tell you right now. And I had similar thing because. Once again, when I first started photography, I see these amazing photo people using flash and things like that. Yeah, I got so excited. Once again, I saved money to buy my first speed light for Canon, and I got it on my camera, slap it on, and you know what? All my photos look like shit. I'm not joking. They're really, really horrible. And no matter how I try, how hard I try, trying to change settings and this and that, I wasted like 4 or 5 rolls of films and continuously, just couldn't get one correct. And because I never really studied it, I didn't know what flash was. I didn't really know the the relationship between using an artificial light source compared to like a natural light source, and the sync speed, all the other stuff, first curtain, second curtain, all these other relationships that I never even understand a bit of it. When you buying camera in this, they talked about these sophisticators like ETTL, from both the actual camera and also the speed light. They will calculate all the exposure for you. Yes, they will calculate for you, but everything just look flat. It just doesn't look nice at all. Why those masters can create these things like this shot in outdoor, and I can't do the same thing? They just look horrible. We look amateur, because I never really understood it in the first place. So it's good to learn really about the basics of everything, then you kind of evolve from there and practice, is one of the main reasons to get improvement. Just keep practicing, keep shooting it. It's actually a lot easier these days with digital, because you can see exactly what's going on with the EVF. What you see is what you get. right? It's really easy and simple. Back in the days, in the film days, you really don't know the shots until the films are developed, and that could take a week, maybe 2 weeks. So the process is a lot longer, and this is one of the reasons why when I started as a film photographer, I have to carry one of these notebooks, and I have to write down all the setting about each of the photos that I took to practice, because otherwise you just forget, oh, what setting, what shutter speed that I use. And if you look at a photo, if the photo didn't turn out right, at least you know those were the setting, and you try to adjust it, hopefully, for the next time. And it's as simple as that. This is the only way to do it back then, but these days it's so simple now. You take a photo, even if you don't have EVF, just even if you're using a DSLR, for instance, you can still review the image straight away from the back of the screen, and it's so simple these days. And you can keep practicing. You can almost fast track your progress compared to the old days, like by 100 folds. So you can easily learn a lot of stuff in a day, compared to it could take weeks, maybe months, to do the same thing. And so it's really different. And oh yeah, Portsmouth, that's it, Trevor. Yes, you're from Portsmouth. Cool stuff. And with bokeh. And Mark in Stormtrooper logo. You know what? Stormtrooper is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars. I love them, and I have a lot of these Stormtrooper figurines and stuff, especially these little Mr. Potato. I don't know if you have them, the Mr. Potato Stormtrooper. I have a whole bunch of them, and it's still in my studio. I'm hoping that I will be able to display them very soon once it's all done. That's so cool. Right, so this is it, and just let me try to find another photo I can show you in a minute. And also, like, I think I did talk about timing and framing some of the streams before. So this is something that you kind of evolve all the time, and every photographer would eventually find their own style and their own genre, photography that they really enjoy doing. I would be surprised if any photographer would say that I'm really good at everything. I can tell you that I'm not very good with landscape. I'm not very good with macro stuff, not motorsport stuff, or as a matter of fact, any sports stuff. I'm just not very good at. I'm very good with street, documentary, and people related stuff, whether it's wedding or portraits and things like that. I'm very good with people. And so I guess over time, you kind of, the longer and the more you shoot, the more understanding about yourself as a photographer, then you finally find something that you're really interested in photographing. This is something you kind of start following your heart, and everything just become natural. I think this is really good, right? Once you found that, and I guess you are at the right stage to say that I'm very good at something, because you're starting to see yourself into a particular scene. You're starting to see yourself doing certain things that you really enjoy. So every time you go out, you have the similar setup, and this is why and how your camera has become your tools rather than a accessory, fashion accessory, hanging around your neck and show off. So like, no matter whether you're going to be using like a very a beginner level EM10, for instance, or a slightly older cameras like a Pen F, or the latest all singing, all dancing, like the EM5 Mark III or the EM1X, EM1 Mark III, it doesn't really matter. They are all tools for you eventually, because you know what, when you come down to taking photographs on the street or taking something that you really enjoy, they can all perform the same. Okay, fair enough, the EM10 Mark III does have a 16 megapixel while the others have 20, but resolution doesn't really come into it. I mean, I talked about it before, unless you are with an intention to printing really big or cropping a lot, then yeah, high resolutions will help a little bit, but ultimately it doesn't deter you from taking a great photograph, because 16 megapixel in my eyes, even 12, will still be sufficient for displaying online. Even you have 4K, because 4K resolutions on TV and things like that, it's only 8 megapixel, to be honest. So that means you're more than enough to display that sort of work on a really high resolution big TV. And even printing in A3 sizes, 12 megapixels is still fine, because I remember when I first started professionally, I had my Canon 5D, the very original, the Mark I. So that camera had 12 megapixel. And I already shooting weddings with that, and I was able to print in A3, A1 sizes without problem at all. So that means they are sufficient. And depending on how you process the photos and how you output it, and your printer should know exactly what sort of setting to maximize the sharpness and details from that 12 megapixel sensor. So that's all I want to say. So 16 megapixel is not a problem. 20, of course, just a little bit more. And hence, I always say that, when people talked about, oh, Olympus should do a higher resolution camera, like 25, 30 megapixels, maybe 48 megapixels from the Sony Micro Four Third development, I probably agree, but the thing is, would you need it? Probably not. And also, when you have that sort of megapixel, you will suffer even more in low light capabilities, and also your workflow would slow down dramatically because of that. You just have to be sure that you're ready to take on that extra workload from the computer itself, because I guarantee that everything will slow down if you have a high megapixel sensor and also larger raw files. This is something I'm not prepared for, even though I have one of the top range computer that I use for my work, but I'm so used to the speed that I'm getting now. I know if I'm getting a slightly higher megapixel camera, everything will change. My archive system will have to change because things is going to get filled up fairly quickly. I need bigger hard drive to archive, and I need even more powerful computers because they tailor for the workflow that I have at the moment for the 12 megapixel photos and 4K videos. So anything bigger is not going to be helpful for my workflow. Especially if you're a professional, right? Time is money. So like the longer you spend on doing something, the less money you're going to make because you want to move on to the next job and so forth. You want to really turn out photos as quickly as possible. So this is why I'm quite happy where I am at the moment, and I don't really need anything more than 20 megapixel. Now I can live with 24 because I actually I have the same setup in computers and things like that. Before I moved to Olympus, I was using the Leica and the Canon system, which they are all 24 megapixels. So I'm still happy about 24 if they really eventually move up to 24, even 25. So I'm happy. But 20 is definitely the sweet spot for me. And it's enough sharpness, enough detail for me to print big for my clients. I can print albums, I can print large canvases. It's fine. They're very happy about everything that I've done so far. All my clients never ever complain about 20 megapixel. In fact, they don't really know what 20 megapixel is, and so they just want to see the photos. And as long as they can print big, they're happy. And in fact, 20 megapixel is enough to print big, so you don't have to worry too much about it. And let's see what Mark say here. And back in the film days, remember getting someone else develop film back from the process made it difficult. Yeah, that's exactly what I said, right? And in the old days, I really remember because of the time it took to develop the films, and you won't really see the results until much later on. Either you forget about the whole thing altogether, and second, if you didn't write down the setting for that particular photo, you just really forgot about it, and it's hard to learn, hard to improve because of that. At these days, is really, compared to the film days, a lot easier. Everything is instant. Even though you may not have EVF, like I mentioned, you can still see from the back of the screen, very, very straightforward. But with EVF, it's even better because you can even adjust the exposures and you can see the results straight away happening in front of your eyes, without having to even press the shutter button. That's the beauty of EVF, because you can see exactly all the exposure changes, and the light changes, everything, including the white balance. Fantastic. I love EVF, and I was one of these advocates who talked about OVF, was better than EVF right in the early days, and because I was right. At the beginning of EVS, it was horrible. It was laggy. It was low resolutions. It was really just not nice. The color reproduction wasn't accurate. So OVF by far was still the best. It's bright, it's sharp. Basically you're seeing through a mirror of the world through the lens. So it's really just a pleasant to use. But these days, I think I much prefer using EVF for a simple reason. What you see is what you get. It makes my life easier, so there will be basically no guesswork about exposure. You see exactly how it's going to turn out in a photo, in a final image. So it's just perfect. I now accepted EVF, and also now technology has improved so far. The lag is almost non-existent. The resolution is high enough for me to to make sure that whether it's in focus or not, and also the refresh rate is so quick that is almost moving like real life. Is just no difference compared to like an OVF, for instance. So everything has improved so much over the years, and now I think the next step for all the photography now is probably looking in the software development, because the hardware, I guess, to my eyes is I'm happy with where they are at the moment. Like I mentioned, I don't probably mind having a little bit more resolutions and dynamic ranging, but these are really like, I'm trying to being a little bit critical here. Is not really essential for me. I'm happy with exactly everything that I have at the moment. Software would possibly the next big thing, I guess. And Olympus has always been the forefront of computational photography, something that is really interesting, that whatever they're developing at the moment, for instance, the AI tracking, subject tracking, the live composite, live bulb, these are things that they actually invented, and they are all very, very useful stuff. I would like to see more like software development side from camera manufacturers to see how much they can push, in terms of artificial intelligence and also artificial effects in the computer, in the actual computer inside the camera, because these guys are catching up. I'm not joking, right? The smartphones now, in terms of software, I'm not talking about the sensor size or the lenses or anything like that, but in terms of software development, they are really, really like leaping every single year. The amount of software development behind the scene is just phenomenal. That's something I personally think any and not any, just like all camera manufacturers should take some notes about how much they can push software-wise to enhance a image. So this is something really cool. I just would like to see that happening very, very soon, and I guess it will be interesting to see if they can do something with a smartphone or like an ultra tiny sensor. How much can they do the same thing with a bigger sensor? This is what I'm trying to think. This is something I'm going to talk about later on in the afternoon as well, and when I talk about the Olympus features. So if you are free, of course, you can join me right there and at 3 p.m. GMT London time. So yeah, it will be quite a fun discussion. It will be really interesting discussion about what Olympus may or should look at in the future in terms of features, and what is your favorite feature so far, if you are an Olympus user. If not, maybe hopefully you can learn a couple of things about Olympus and give you a little bit of incentive to try out a little bit, because I do think that Olympus software wise is pretty cool. The live bulb, live composite is really some of the things that I really do enjoy using, even though like I told you, I'm not really an expert using these sort of thing, but it's fun. Olympus does a really good job in terms of making photography fun for people, because it's so accessible, so easy to use, that even though you may not be an expert, at least you can try it without having to scratch your head, and do things, crazy. And I have only limited hair left, so I don't want to lose any more. So Olympus is definitely working fine for me. Cool. And okay, Burana has something here. And in Thailand, there's a rumor about Pen F2 again. Interesting. Maybe this will be tomorrow's topic. Actually, no, tomorrow I'm going to talk about something else. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about having special features to talk about wireless streaming. So if you're in the market looking at something like this, tomorrow is a cool thing to do. Even if not, it'd be quite cool to understand this is the next big thing, or at least the next coming things for a lot of the streamers and YouTubers and other people who may want to utilize this wireless transmitter to do other creative work. I'm not going to talk about too much about this because tomorrow's topics. So tomorrow I'm going to talk about wireless transmission, and it's going to be fun because hopefully I'll be demonstrating using the wireless transmitter outside my backyard, even though it looks like a horrible mess at the moment, because we actually moved into this place not long ago, so the garden is still crap. We're supposed to fix it, and then having gardener here, we landscape it and everything like that, but we had no time, and now, especially after lockdown, we're not really looking for anybody to come and do the work, so it's still like a mess. So if you can forgive my mess in my back garden, I'll be doing some demo, just trying to take the camera out and shoot in the sunlight rather in this indoor environment. So hopefully I can do something slightly different tomorrow. So cool, let's do that. And I shall end my live stream here. And on Friday, I already have a topic as well for Friday. So tomorrow is going to be the Holyland 400S, the wireless transmitter. I'm going to talk about wireless streaming. And on Friday, I'm going to talk about my inspiration, at least one of my hero in photography and where my photography came from. And I guess this particular person will be familiar to all of you. So stay tuned for that. And just do it. Yeah, thank you, Purana. And I know, so hopefully I will see you guys again tomorrow. It'll be really cool. And I will see some of you, at least today's in the afternoon, 3 p.m. will be my other talk on Olympus, specifically Olympus, on my YouTube channel, Red35 Photography. So the link is all in the description, so you can click onto it. And if you want to check out all my previous stream on my Facebook, you can go to my personal YouTube channel, which the link is also in the description. You can go back and check all my previous streams, and there are some of the really interesting stuff there. Some could be a little boring because I'm doing this daily. I don't always have the same thing to talk about, and every single day is, you know what? Yeah, it is really challenging for me to do this live stream on a daily basis. I really enjoy it, and I like to see interact with people like all of you, Mark, Barana, Trevor, and a lot of Marcel, all the other people that have been watching my daily life for quite some time now. So it's really interesting to see friends, right? This is kind of like my meeting now. I really enjoy this, and also communication, interaction from all of you is really always, is always good. So this is what keeps me going, especially under this lockdown period at the moment. And this is certainly something that gives me a little bit of a motivation, incentive to get out of bed every single day. So thank you guys for continuing supporting me, and I'm really appreciating everything that you've done so far, and of course, and all the love that you send me. And every time I say something, or if I express any disappointment and things like on my YouTubes and things like that, you guys will still give me a lot of motivational comments and things like that, so make me feel a little bit better. So thank you for that. Excellent stuff. So I'm gonna end my stream right here, and yeah, thank you, Trevor. You're one of my heroes, and thank you very much for joining me every single day as well. It's amazing, a lot of you guys, and it just I don't know how to thank you. Hopefully one day we'll be able to meet up to do a photo walk, for instance, in London. I'm really up for that. So whenever this lockdown thing is finished, I guarantee I'm gonna come out and organize some photo walk and some charity walk, something. I just want to meet you guys, and it'll be really cool just to see you guys face to face. And even Barana, if you ever go back to Thailand, please do meet up. And I have friends all over the world now because of all this live stream stuff on my YouTube. There were so many people. Rao, for instance, in Colorado, in US, and he even talked about getting me up in hot air balloon, which he runs some of them in the States. So that would be cool, right? I can't wait to do all this stuff, but of course, I have to wait until these pandemic things go away, and before I can finally head out and just say hi personally and thank all of you for all the support you've given me so far. So thank you again, and thank you, Jason, and yeah, just so many of you. I really appreciate it. So I'll see you guys this afternoon, and then and talk about Olympus. In that case, I'll say bye now. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.